Okay, so today's topic is comprehensive BTT writer, and it's not really possible for me to do a fully comprehensive BTT writer in 30 minutes or an hour. But I am going to take us through some of the things we've learned, maybe some things that we haven't learned, but that are really important for us when we're working with BTT writer. So I I normally don't use Windows, but I've got my screen here on a Windows machine so that most of you who do use Windows will find it understandable and similar to what you do. So the first thing, of course, when we start up BTT Writer is we look to see if we're logged in. Um, I may have some problems today because I log in on multiple different machines. I have a Linux computer, I have a Windows computer, I have a Macintosh that I use for testing for the various people that I'm trying to help with the help desk. And so when I log in and upload from one of those computers, it frequently makes a problem for uploading for a different one of those computers. And so um, checking that I'm logged in is important, but I may have to log out and log back in again in order to actually be able to upload because I log in multiple places. If you only log into Wax on one computer in BTT Writer, you will probably never have to log out and log back in again. Maybe until you get a new version of the software. Um, Even when you're not connected online, that login that you made to Wax will continue to be good for your BTT writer. You don't need to update it. So I've got that set. There are a couple of other things that we can check here right at the beginning in the settings. And so here's my interface language. We're currently testing a new release of BTT Writer. I think it will be out this week. And the version I'm using has English and French. The new version will add Portuguese and Russian as localizations for BTT Writer. And so I'm very excited about that. And it's also an opportunity for those of you who want it maybe in Spanish or maybe in Hindi or some other language. If you have some time or some friends or something like that, you can use our crowd-in service to help us put BTT Writer in your language. And so if you want to help with that, you can just send an email to helpdesk@techadvancement.com and we'll get you all set up that way. The other things that I'm going to make sure here is I'm going to make sure that gateway mode is turned off because I am not working on a GL project, and blind edit mode is turned on. I have this set to color theme light. Sometimes I leave it on system, but some of my computers go to dark mode. And then when I take screenshots for the manual, it will take a lot of ink to print those. So I leave it on light so that my screenshots will print more easily. The translation fonts, you can see here for the target, I have Roboto, which is the default font. But then for the source translation, I'm using Noto Sans, which is another good font. Anyway, those are some of the things that you can check. You can see my backup location here is my user directory and then BTT Writer. I'm using the latest version. And the data path, the place that Mr. Chuck Leash has named the happy path, is listed right here. And so one of the things we've talked about a little bit is what happens if you have a project that is just really broken, and you can't export it, you can't upload it. Um, the new version of BTT Writer 1.4 and following should bundle that up into a zip file, and so you can rescue it from that folder as a zip file. And I'll show you how to find that. So that's going to be in the backup location. I'm going to copy this and Control C. And then I'm going to open Windows Explorer here. So in Windows Explorer, once I have that backup location copied, I can go up here and I can paste that, and it will take me right to my backups location. And inside there, I've got a folder called Automatic Backups. And these are the automatic backups of projects that I've worked on. Now, one of the things you might notice, if I go back to my home screen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I've got 5 projects here. I've got a lot more than 5 backups here. That's because even after I delete a project from BTT Writer, I still have an automatic backup of it here in my automatic backups folder. So this time I haven't had any broken projects that were made into zip files. If there were, it would say .zip at the end instead of .tstudio. And so let's imagine that for some reason that wasn't working, and I really need to get that project fixed. Well, that means that I really need to send it to the help desk. So I'm going to go to the data path now, that happy path that we talk about, and I'm going to put that in up here. And so the target translations folder inside the data path is the place where my translation files live. And so you can see here, I've got 5 items, just like I did here in my home screen. And so if I need to send one of these to the help desk, I can just right click on it, compress to zip file, and then this zip file is what I'll send to the help desk to make sure that I get help on that. Okay, so those are a couple of the things that we look at when we first start up BTT Writer on a new computer or on a new version, just to make sure that everything's where we think it's going to be. Are there any questions so far? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. So I have these projects in my home screen here. One of the things that you can see is that I've got the name of the book over here: Exodus, Luke, Titus, Philemon, Jude. And over here, I've got the language. And so you can see that 3 of these projects are just sort of test projects that I've been doing. I've got English Demo 1 and Icelandic Sign Language as the languages here. So these aren't real projects. These aren't things that need to be uploaded particularly, because nobody's going to be using them. With these projects, you can also see how complete they are. So the Luke is 100% complete, and I can verify that by going to the details here and saying, yep, progress is 100%. Exodus here is not quite there. It's 77%. And then the other projects have less. One of the things that's really important when you have a project that's not at 100% is to come to the details and do the project review. When you do project review, If you're at the home screen, it will load the project. You can also choose project review from the hamburger menu inside the project when you're working on it. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have picked Exodus. That's a pretty big book. Here we go. Okay, so when I'm in the project review, I'm going to see things like, so there's a little green check mark there under project details. For Exodus 1 through 7, I've got 2 check marks. That means that there's a whole bunch of stuff here that's correct. Chapters 1 through 7 in Exodus. When I get down to Exodus 8, now I have a problem. So I say, what is my problem? Well, Exodus 8 title is fine, but verses 1 through 4 need a review. 5 through 7 need a review. Oh, look, looks like the whole chapter needs to be reviewed. Then chapters 9 to 13 are fine. When I get to chapter 14, I'm good up through verse 18, but then starting with verse 19, I need review again. And then here in Exodus 15, you can actually see the contents of the chunk that needs reviewed. So when I back up here, these look like they're probably empty chunks. Hopefully that means that the typist has not yet typed Exodus 14, or that the translators have not yet translated Exodus 14, and that's why it's blank. If they have translated it, or they have typed it, and I have merged it in, but it's not showing up, that's a red flag. That's an indication that now we need to do something here to get that fixed. So let's look at this chunk here, Exodus 15, chunk 6, for verses 6 through 8. I'm going to click on the review button. And it brings me up to this chunk right here. So there's a couple of things that I can see right away that are wrong with this chunk. The first one is the verse markers have not been placed. They're all piled up together here at the front. If this was a right to left language, the verse markers would be all over here instead. So the next thing, I don't speak this language, but I can see that in the source, the word Lord is capitalized. And I can see over here, this word is capitalized. And so I can guess that that is the word for Lord. Well, Lord, Lord. And then verse 7 starts there and it goes all the way down to here. That's a lot of text. And that text doesn't seem to be present over on this side. So because I don't speak this language, this is not something I can fix. So when I find this problem, this is where I need to contact the translation team. And I need to say, okay, I'm going to upload this to Wax anyway, but you need to fix Exodus chapter 15 because you haven't translated all of the material. It looks pretty good up through verse 5. Looks pretty good up through verse 5. You know, I lost my place. Anyway, so that's one of the things that's really important when you see that a project isn't finished. Oh, this is a good one. So do you see here we've got resolve conflict, but we don't have conflicts to click on? We aren't completely sure what causes this kind of problem, but it's probably from merging and then not resolving the conflicts right away. And so if you merge and have conflicts and then you merge more conflicts in, we think that's what causes this problem. So this project has a lot of problems. We're going to be stuck at 77% until we can get those problems fixed. Any questions about that? All right. So we'll move along here. If I want to type in a new translation, so I've got people somewhere who've sent me a written page of translation. This is how I'm going to type that in. I'm going to look at the name of the book, type in the name of the book. When I'm done, I'll go ahead and click that little check mark up there to go back. So to edit, I click on the pencil, and I can type in, or as the pastor of my church reminded us on Sunday, in another part of the Bible, Jude is referred to as Judas, Jesus's brothers, James, Joseph, and Judas. So I can type that in there. You'll see that I haven't clicked the close chunk box yet. There's a couple of ways to think about that, and I'll talk about that as I continue. So again, I get to chunk 1, I click the pencil, I type in all of the words. And I'm going to take out the numbers here because we don't normally type in the verse numbers. And so then when I'm done, I click to close the chunk, or to stop editing. Now I need to place the verse marker. That's very important. When the written translation comes to you, they'll have the verse markers marked in. If they don't, you need to send it back to them. But we need to make sure that the verse markers are present in the text that we save as well. So this time, let me go ahead and keep those numbers. So let's say that this is how it was written for me. And so I've got the verse 3 number there and the verse 4 number there. How do I put in these verse markers properly? Well, if I just exit the edit mode here with the check mark, now if I put 3 there and 4 there, well, I've got 3, 3, 4, 4. That's not good. So what I can do is I can make sure, first of all, that there's a space behind each number. There needs to be a space between the number and the words that come after it. And then in front of it, \V for verse, and then a space before the number. For verse 4, I need to make sure that there's a space in front of the \V4. Now when I come out of editing mode, my verses are already placed. So you can use either one of those methods when you're typing up the text that you've received from the translators, but it's really, really, really important to get the verse markers placed correctly. Now,
hey, John.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. There was a question. If you can you repeat what you said about the parsing error? You know, if you're doing something right now, you could do that later. Answer the question later.
Well, I'll go back to it now because I might forget about it later, and I do think it's quite important. So we talked a little bit about how we can import a project file, and it will allow us to import a TStudio file. So importing, please wait. And this is the normal way that if you have more than one typist, we use to put the translation together. Okay, so that's been successfully imported. Okay, so I'm going to make a backup of this phyleme in an Icelandic sign language. So I'm going to export a project file, and I'm going to put it on my desktop so I can find it more easily. And you can see it just popped up on my desktop over there. Now I'm going to delete this project. Now I'm going to create a new Icelandic Sign Language Philemon project. And I like Philemon for these exercises because it's small. And so it's pretty fast. So I add my source text. And then I start copying what was written for me. So I made an error here. That's on purpose. So now if I go back to my home screen, I have this Philemon project. I'm going to import my project file from over here. So I'm going to go to my desktop. There's the project, open. Okay, the project already exists. I'm going to merge the projects because, again, the idea is you have two different people entering the same translation. You need to put their work together. Okay, my project has been successfully imported. That's good. But there's a chunk that contains a conflict. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to open Philemon. And you can see this is the normal way that a conflict looks. If I click on the conflict button over here, this is the only chunk it's going to show me. So normally I would be able to pick one of these two chunks, click resolve the conflict, and it would keep that chunk. So Pungi's question was, where does that come from? I'm going to open up the happy path. And so here's the language code, ICL, PHM, Philemon, regular text. That's my project. My problem was in chapter 1, and it was in the title text. So I'm going to open title text, and I have VS Code on my computer. I could also open it with Notepad++. Notepad is not quite as useful as a tool for this. Okay, actually, Notepad++ is not being very helpful either. Let me go ahead and open it in VS Code. And actually, I think I may have chosen the wrong one. I think this is the chapter heading, which was not where the chunk conflict was. Yeah, so that just says chapter 1. All right, so I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go up one level. Here, front. This is the book name, title text. So I'm going to open that in VS Code. All right, let me see if I can zoom this in. Okay, so here in the plain text, you can see what BTT Writer is doing behind the scenes. Technically, Git is doing this behind the scenes, but we don't need to be technical. So we've got on the top here, we've got some less than symbols, and then the word head, and then this is something that VS Code does, which is very helpful, which it says current change. It says Philippians. Then there are a bunch of equal signs. Then it says Philemon. And then a bunch of greater than signs and a really weird number. And then again, VS Code adds the comment incoming change. You don't need to worry too much about this number. That's a Git commit ID, and that's all you need to know about it. But basically, in BTT Writer, when we're asked to choose between the two different changes, we're being asked to choose between what's above the equal signs and what's below them. That's something BTT Writer understands. Unfortunately, if I don't resolve this conflict, there we go. If I don't resolve this conflict and I merge in another conflict, now I might have something row of equal signs, something else, row of equal signs, something else. BTT Writer doesn't know what to do with that. That's not the procedure. And so this is one of the reasons why we insist that after you merge, you immediately check for merge conflicts. And if there are merge conflicts, you resolve those merge conflicts before you do another merge. So this Paplanta Teutonic Exodus that I was showing you, I was able in VS Code to resolve some of those conflicts. The trouble is I don't speak that language. And so I have the technical skill to fix it, but I don't speak the language. The people who speak the language don't have the technical skill to fix it. And so rather than fixing it close to the time the error was made, now we're months later and we've got this problem. Does that answer your question, Pangi?
Yes, it does, John. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and resolve this conflict right away so that it's out of my way. Oh, that looks like terrible translation, but you know, I don't speak the language. Okay, so I mentioned before, normally when we're typing, when we finish a chunk, we close the chunk. And so we confirm that we've placed the verse markers and so on. Sometimes if we're typing a lot, that can be a lot of work. Or sometimes we'll merge in a project and the typist didn't close any of the chunks before he sent it to us. Or if we import USFM, the chunks for USFM are always not closed. Yes, Mark. In fact, I want to comment on that. I just put out a new version of our training manual. This is the manual that we will be using in Kenya, and it's an update from the manual that we used in Denpasar, which is an update from the manual that we used in Zambia, which is an update from the manual that we used in Punta Cana. And so if you already have a manual, you can feel free to download the PDF of the new manual. If you do not already have a manual, you can feel free to download the PDF of the manual. And we talk about how to change the font there. But I'm going to do it here for you. So Mark's question was, how can we change the font of the target language here? So I'm going to go to the settings. And so target translation font currently is Roboto. Let me change that to something that looks different. We can be happy I'm not doing this on my main computer because I have more fonts on my main computer. So let's try apparatus. And then while I'm at it, I'm going to make it bigger too. So now when I go back to the project, you can see the old font was more of a sans serif, and this one has little things at the top of the L and the top of the D. It's a serif font. So I've changed the font, and I've also changed the size of the target language. And that can be very useful. Sometimes it's hard to find what you're looking at when you are when the font is too small. I'm going to reduce the size back to normal so that my chunks are the same size. Okay, so when you import USFM, which is also talked about in the manual, all of the chunks are not closed. And so one of the things, we actually got applause for this when we showed this feature in Denpasar. One of the features of the new version of BTT Writer 1.4 is this one right here, mark all chunks done. So after I finish typing, I can click this. Now you may have noticed, if you were watching, that some of the chunks further down I haven't finished. They're empty. What's going to happen if I click mark all chunks done? Well, it tells me 6 out of 10 were marked done. The 4 chunks that don't have anything, they were not marked done. So I will be reminded when I come back here to home, I will be reminded that my project is not complete. So again, if you are doing translation, don't use that tool. Okay, Anna Sophia, the manual links are in the Telegram chat. Maybe Mark Hancock can copy them from there into this chat so that I can keep focusing on the training here. But that's a good question. Thank you. So if you're doing translation, if you're following the masked steps in BTT Writer, don't use the ability to mark all of the chunks done. It's actually one of the checking steps that when you mark the chunk done, it asks you, did you check all of the keywords? Did you check, this and that? And so it's very, very important that you go through those steps when you're doing translation. But if the translation is already done, you've been given the draft, then you can feel free to use that to close all of the chunks. Okay, the next step, of course, is to upload. We want to upload every chance we get. Jude is not what I want to do, though. Philemon. The reason we want to upload every chance we get is that it is so easy to lose information. Digital information, well, any kind of information is very, very easily destroyed. One of my favorite Bible translation stories, mostly because it shows the danger of this, but also because it showed that he didn't give up and he kept working. One of the early missionaries to India was translating the Bible, and he had translated the Bible into 40 different languages. That's 40 different languages in India. And then there was a fire at his house, and he had written them all on paper, and everything was burned up, and he had to start again. Now, if he had been using BTT Writer and uploaded to Wax, his house could burn down and he would be fine as far as the Bible translation was concerned. And so we think, well, we're not doing that on paper, we're doing it on a computer. A computer can be destroyed in a fire just like paper can. But a computer can also be destroyed by water, by termites, by dust, by thieves. There are so many ways to lose information. And so it's very, very important for us to upload every chance we get. I'm going to do this one more time because I was talking about something else when it finished and I just clicked dismiss, which I should not do. I should carefully read the message it gives me. So the funny thing is, it's taking a while, but it's not actually sending very much information. BTT Writer is checking with the version of the project that's at Wax, and it's saying, are there any changes from the last time I uploaded? And in this case, there are none because I just did it. Okay, so this link is very, very important. And one of the things we talk about a little bit in the manual is the mast tracking template. It's a spreadsheet that we use to track the progress of translation projects. And it's one of the reasons I like that spreadsheet is there's a place where you can paste this link. Now, why is that important? Well, if I upload this and I tell my boss, okay, I uploaded the translation, and my boss goes to port and says, I don't see it there. And I say, but I did. I uploaded Indian, what's the city in southern India that starts with a C? Anyway, if I uploaded that language, ICL, oh, that's actually not the right language code. And so when you paste that link into the spreadsheet to track it, it lets us verify where that project was actually uploaded. And so maybe the language code is wrong. Maybe the type is wrong. Maybe you have ULB instead of text. Maybe there's some other problem that is keeping your boss from finding the project in port. And so one of the things that you do when you copy that link is you help us to save something that was missing, but also to show I did do the work even if I made this one mistake. If you don't save that link, then we have no idea if you even uploaded at all, because we can't find your work. And so we aren't going to be talking about the tracking template in this training. We do have a video at Mass Tech Talk on YouTube that you can look at for how to use the training Chennai. Yes. So if I thought that this was Indian Chennai language, ICL, well, no, that's not the right code. So if you save the link, you can prove that you did upload. If you don't save the link, we have no evidence that you even uploaded at all. And it's not that we are calling people liars or anything like that, but we can get confused about something that we're doing. This isn't BTT Writer, but a deaf translation, which is video, and they're doing sign language. They sent the hard drive to America for us to save it, for us to upload it. And somebody said, okay, we uploaded it, and they sent the hard drive back. And then we couldn't find it anywhere online. And for a little while, we were afraid that the hard drive had been erased. Good news on that one, we did find it. It has been returned, and it has been uploaded. And so praise the Lord, that deaf community will be getting their New Testament soon. But just because you think you uploaded it does not mean that you did upload it. But if you save the link, then that's evidence that you did upload it and where you uploaded it to, so that we can check that. Now, one of the things that I don't like about this link is that it does not actually point to where I uploaded to. Now, some of you may have been watching me be a little bit frustrated in the background here, as I kept saying, I want to see this page, and it says it does not exist. Well, if I change the first part here from read.bible translation tools to content. I'm sorry, Bible in every language. Oh, maybe. That one also does not exist. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to change this to content.bible translation tools. Oh, look at that. That's not there either. Get to see me do a little troubleshooting here. Okay, so here's what I uploaded. ICL, Philemon, text regular. And so this link here actually doesn't point to where I uploaded. This points to where I should be able to see it in the reader on Bible in every language. But sometimes that reader version does not appear properly. And so I'm talking with the developers, the programmers, and what we hope to do is to have a second link underneath, which is the actual place where we upload. And that will make our job a little bit easier. But upload, upload, upload. When you upload, it does not upload everything, but only the changes from the last time. And so it does not take a lot of data. It may take a little bit of time, but it is worth it to save your work so that you don't have to do it again, and especially so that you lose information. Any questions about that part? Okay, moving very, very quickly. At the end of a translation event, we usually like to send people home with a printout that they can show people what they were working with when they were doing the Bible translation. And we can print directly from BTT Writer using this. It actually saves as a PDF, so then you have to find the PDF and print that. So let me show what that looks like. So you can see here, it's going to my backup location. And so if I go into my settings and I choose my backup location, and then I go to Windows Explorer, there's the PDF that I just created. So for a lot of places, that's perfect. That's exactly what you want. We've got a PDF that we can send home, and the people will be able to read it. They'll be able to discuss it with their churches to say, is this the best way? Is this the best translation? Maybe the pastor will say, well, I would translate it this way instead. Or maybe there are some other people in the village who say, oh, but that's not the way we say it in our language. That's from the other language over there. In our language, we say it a different way. So yeah, a lot of times that's perfect, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes you want something that's a little bit nicer in various ways. Maybe you want it two column, or maybe you want a different kind of style. In that case, what we encourage you to do is to come here to export and export to USFM. When we export to USFM, again, it asks if we want to go into the backup location, and I can save that. And so here's the USFM file that I just created. And then that USFM file can be used with something like USFM Converter, which can make it into a Word document file, which can be formatted all kinds of ways. Or it can we can use it with a program called PTX Print, which those of you who've already been through training will remember. And PTX Print has amazing, it's basically magic. I don't understand it. It's basically magic, but it takes this USFM code and it turns it into the most beautiful printed documents. And so if you need a printing, those are the two ways that we recommend it at this time. In the future, we may need to improve that or add another way of doing it. But right now, that's the main way of doing it. So those, for me, are the most important elements of the overview. There is one more thing. So you can see here, I'm going to show you project review from within the project. So I come here to the menu and say project review here. One of the other things that's really important is after you've reviewed this part, make sure that all of the contributors are recognized here. These people work very, very hard on the translation, and it's important for them to receive recognition for what they've done for the church. And so if If Pungni was one of the translators on this, I would add his name, say that yes, he agreed with all of this, and then add him as a contributor. Now, the project manager probably has all of this information, I hope. But if we put it here with BTT Writer, then it will follow the project along and it will not be lost. One of the other things that we can do, and we talked a little bit about how before the event, before the translation event, you need to make sure you have the language code for the languages you're going to be translating. In the best world, that would always happen. But every once in a while, we come to a place where the project manager just hasn't done that. And so we don't have that information. Yes, I mistyped his name. There we go. And there's not an easy way for me to edit this, so be careful when you do that. Christian, yes. If somebody worked as a typist to type this up, they deserve honor for the work that they did, in my opinion. Okay, so the other thing that we can use this for is, let's say that I get to an event and I have to use Icelandic Sign Language as the code because the project manager does not have a code for me. Maybe this language does not yet have a code because previously people thought it was just part of another language. Here I would say ICL used in place of code for so I can use this as a place to leave notes about the project so that later on when we load this, we can say, oh, yeah, I don't recognize this, but there's a note here saying it's this language, and now we have a code, we can change it. So not every group that has printed a Bible has done this, but I feel like when a Bible is printed, all of the people who have contributed to the Bible should be listed in the front or in the back to give them the credit of being the people who did that work. And in fact, in my English Standard Version Bible, they do that for the translators who worked on the English Standard Bible, which is, big commercial Bible. So if they honor the people who put in the work as well as paying them, then we certainly can recognize the people who have done the work without being paid, except in the kingdom of heaven. Are there any other questions? We've got 5 minutes left. Okay, I'll remind you that all of the videos from this training are available at ihadi.org, and so you can watch them again and again and again. We also have shorter videos about specific topics on YouTube at Mass Tech Talk, and maybe Mark can put that in the next newsletter.
Yeah, everybody has received the link for weeks 1 through 10, and either in eHadi or it's on YouTube, especially in areas where you don't have if your bandwidth is not as good, maybe it's useful on YouTube.
Right. The other thing there is, I mentioned the manual, and I'm glad that some of you are interested and are downloading that. my next job is I'm going to go through the manual section by section and make videos for each section of the manual. And so they'll be 3 to 5 minutes long, nice short videos talking about each of the ideas in the manual. And we'll also talk about some of the other things, like I'll have a video about how to get around in Windows Explorer, because I know some of you don't have a background in IT, and so even something like that can be difficult. So that's something that we're going to be doing in the future. I don't know if it will be done very far before the training in Kenya. All right.
I'm hoping next week we can bring in Michael Rodriguez to communicate the meaning of EHOTI.
Yes, that would
So
be great.
that would be
And
really good.
Tome, yes, it is an acronym. Okay, Pangni, your question about the project import. So there are a number of reasons why a project import fails. Most of them have to do with the Git repository information or with the zip format, because a project file is a zip file. When you export in USFM, you leave out all of the things like the contributors and the language code and the source and all of that. And so it's just a text file. And so that's easier to import. But if you're having problems with the same computer over and over exporting a project file and importing, it may be that the computer has a virus. The other thing that happens that we see a lot is if you export directly to a thumb drive, the process of writing the thumb drive and compressing the zip file takes a while. But BTT Writer does not know when it's finished. And so BTT Writer may say, okay, I did it, while the file system is still writing the file. And if you take that thumb drive out before it's finished, you will have an incomplete zip file. And so that can cause import problems on the other end. So without a specific example, it's hard to know. I would encourage you, if you have a project file that fails import, send it to me at helpdesk@techadvancement.com, and I can look at it and I can tell you what's wrong with that file, and then we can see if we have a problem we need to fix on the computer it came from. So that's a good question.